Hello everyone, and welcome to another Scapes tutorial. Today I will be showing you how I gave some Mavic Pro drone footage a Stark Industry upgrade by using a simple layover graphic, some audio, some motion graphics, as well as using Adobe After Effects. So here is a quick view of the final product.
15 now, speed 430, angels approximately 8,000. Roger, H, take it north.
Okay, so let's get going. First off, make sure you got Adobe After Effects open. We're going to create a new composition, and we're going to call this Drone HUD Display. And the size of the video is going to be 1920 by 1080, and the frame rate is going to be 29.97, and that matches the drone footage that I originally shot, which is a good thing. And the duration, we'll just say we'll leave it at 30, the default 30 seconds for now. Hit OK, and let's get started. Okay, so now that we have our composition set up, we need to start dragging in our content or importing it into the project. So first off, we're going to grab the video of the raw footage. We're going to drop that in place. Let's see. And then we're going to need our audio. So I'm just going to grab those two and drop them in. And then I also need to get my cockpit, which I have to find the folder for that. Oh, and there it is. And we'll drag that in and drop it in. So far I think that's everything we need to get started. So the first thing we need to do is bring in our video footage into the timeline. So we're just going to drag the video footage down into the layers window. And boom, puts it in place wherever we need it, except you'll notice that the video frame is a little bit too big. So we just need to resize it from the 4K footage down to the 1920 by 1080. You do this by right-clicking, going up to the transform, and right here it says fit to comp, and there, it's got the right aspect ratio, so it fits right in place. You will notice that it's a little fuzzy. I'm using a proxy video for this, and you can look that up online on how to use proxy videos in Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere. It just uses a smaller copy of the video for scrubbing along the timeline. It's much easier than working with full 4K video. So now we need to bring in the image of our fighter jet cockpit. So we're going to drag this image from our projects window, and we're going to drag it into the layers, but we want to make sure we put it right on top of the video layer, like that. So it ends up on top of the video. If you drag it beneath it, you won't see it because it's behind the video. So you can just move and drag it up if you happen to do that by mistake. And there it is. This image happened to have transparent windows, so it fits right in place. I didn't have to add any masks, but if you did have a cockpit that had actual images or a view of what was outside of the cockpit at the time, you can always draw in masks, and you can look up how to do that online as well, or maybe I'll do it in another video at some other time. But there's all sorts of tutorials on how to create masks in After Effects and Adobe Premiere. So now that we have two of our main assets in place, let's go ahead and preview this and see how it looks. And as you can see, we're proceeding down the main boulevard of downtown Utica, and it's pretty boring. Drones just don't fly that fast, not like a jet. So we got to fix this. Best way to fix this, let's stop the preview, put our playhead back to the beginning, and now all you need to do is right click on the video track, go up to time, and click on time stretch. And we're actually going to decrease the time to about 20%. Let's see how that looks. Let's push the preview head again. That's looking better. Now he's zooming down. That looks good. I think I'm going to speed it up just a little more because I have a fast jet. Let's say 15. See what we get. And press play. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now that we've sped up our speed of our drone to jet speed, we've created some unused space on our timeline that's probably better to get rid of. And it's really easy to do. You can just basically look and see how long your video clip is by holding the shift key down and dragging your playhead over to the end. It should snap right to it. And you see we're roughly right around 10 seconds. So to change the entire composition setting duration, go up to your duration, or I'm sorry, your composition right here, right click, composition settings, and where it says duration, we're just going to type in 1015, hit OK, and now we have pretty much stretched out our whole duration, or shortened our duration of our timeline to that exact size. So now you can scrub along the entire path and see our animation. You can press play and it'll go through looking good. Awesome. Before we bring in the animations and the heads up displays and all that good stuff, I want to bring the audio in and get all the timing set up for that. I've already brought in one here, which is the flight cockpit traffic over the radio and the jet engine sounds. We'll take a listen to that here.
Okay, he's got a missile off.
Ooh, that's a little loud. Let's bring that down. You can just do that by twirling down the audio button here. And right there, you'll see the audio levels. Let's bring this down to like minus 35. So that sounds.
Okay, he's got a missile off.
Okay, that's a little low. So I'm going to say minus 30. That's good. I like that. So now let's bring in our other audio track. We have our Top Gun music. Bring that in and give it a play. That's also a little loud. So I'm going to tweak this down, say minus 20. That sounds good. Actually, let's say 22. And we'll see how that goes. Bring it back. Yeah, that's good. And the last one, I have a little special effects. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be loud too, so I'm just going to pop it down to minus 15. And that little beeping sound. That's good. But if you'll notice, it's a little short. So we're going to do that time stretch again because it's just a beep sound. Doesn't have any specific meaning. So we'll just do time stretch. And this time we're going to add time. So we'll say 120. Okay, almost there. So we'll say 125. Now you will notice that when you do stretch out, it changes the pitch of the sound. So it might sound a little bit different now. Still works. Yep, that sounds good. So let's go with that. Okay, so we've come to the part of the video tutorial where we're going to add the heads-up display to the cockpit windshield, and also on the cockpit dashboard we're going to add all those cool little animations. Unfortunately, I used a plugin from a company called Red Giant. The plugin specifically is called Universe. I am not going to include that part into this video tutorial, as I doubt many have this plugin. But you can go and look it up. I put a link in the description, see if you might want to purchase it. It comes with a load of stuff that's really cool and just huge things in this whole Universe Red Giant package. But on a good side note, I've also included links in the description of how-to videos on creating your own heads-up display and animations, and they're really sharp looking. They look just as good as the stuff that I use. The tutorials are pretty quick, and you can go through those and then create some and then bring them back into your project here and add them where you want. So we'll come back to that in just a little bit. We are now going to add our heads up and animations to the cockpit. As I had mentioned earlier, I had already created mine using a third-party plugin from Red Giant, but I also mentioned that there are links in the description that show you how to go and make your own heads-up displays that look just as good, if not better, and you can really customize them to what you want. But before we get to that, I want to show you a cool little tip that will come in handy, and you'll see it why I'm showing you this little tip. This little row of icons here, this little guy looks like he's peeking over a wall. It's called the shy setting. And if you want to make some space in your layers, because sometimes this area gets filled up pretty quick, and you'll see in just a second how that works, is if I go to this icon here that says basically this is saying that anything that's hidden with where the shy is turned on, if I click this, they'll automatically show up because the shy icon is turned on these. If I turn on this, this, and this, and hit the shy, now they're turned off. So basically you can hide all the layers that you're not currently working with. So what I want to do now is come back and turn shy off on these guys, because these are all my animations and heads up displays, and I'm going to leave these turned on, and then I can hit shy, and now I've got a little bit of extra space here to work with. I also want to turn all these on now because I had them turned off while I was doing the other parts of the videos. Basically I just highlight them all, click the first one, and they'll all turn on, and you see now I have my heads up items in the display, and I can push play and you can kind of see them working in action.
Okay, he's gonna miss a lot.
So they're pretty much in place. You know, basically I had to create them with the plugin and then resize them and place them wherever I felt necessary. And basically you can see that if I turn these all off again, I literally just chose places to put them at where I thought they would look good. I mean, this cockpit came with these blank spots on there, and I just guessed at where to put them. You know, so when you're out looking for your cockpit image, try and find something where you think would look cool with some display animations. If they've already got them in the cockpit, you might have to mask those out and add yours back in, because you definitely want them to animate. Now we're ready to add some animation to our video layer. This is where we're going to do our bank turn, and I've marked that area where we want to start it right here, where that tick mark is on the audio layer. At this point, he says bank right, so that's where we're going to start our turn. But before we do that, we want to remember where our rotation was when we started. So we're going to set a keyframe at this location at the very beginning, and you do that by clicking the little stopwatch icon here once, and you'll notice right here, there's a little blue keyframe. And then I'm going to go right to where, just a little bit before where he says, or right on, like right around here is where he says bank right. So right here, I'm going to add another keyframe by clicking this little diamond mark here. So now between these two keyframes, it should stay stable. But then we're going to get right about here, and we're going to change this to a 10-degree rotate. And you see that automatically added a keyframe because we changed the movement. Then we're going to come about the same distance here and change that back to 0. And now we've come back. So now if I scrub through this, we tilt, or we'll do it this way, come on, we tilt, bank right, and then we come back. And it's just a video that's doing that now. we've got it now to where the video banks when he gets ready to do the turn, but he doesn't move his position at all. So what we're going to do now is move the position of the video to kind of make it look like the cockpit is pulling away to the right. So now we're going to come up to the position layer of the video, and we're going to do the same thing. Click the little stopwatch and set a keyframe. And then we'll click this little arrow button here on the rotation, which will jump us to the next keyframe where we want to add a second keyframe for the position. So now this is going to hold its position from this point to this point. Then we're going to jump to the next position here. And now we're going to make the building pull away from us. And we'll do that by sliding this way. And it looks like it's pulling away. I think that's a little too far. Maybe right there. That's good. And then we're going to go to the next keyframe. And we're just going to set that back to the original 960. And it pulls us back in. So now the animation kind of looks like, just on the video, looks like this. Pulls away a little bit and then comes back. Now, here's another little trick that if you don't know about, it's called ease in, ease out. And it just makes your movements kind of, you ease into the movement and then you ease out. So it's not all one straight speed. And there's a great way to do this by basically, you can just select all your keyframes and hit F9. And now we've got this easy in, easy out to all the keyframes and just smooths things out a little bit.
Okay, he's gonna miss a lot.
Nice smooth. Awesome. At this point in the tutorial is when we want to start turning or tilting the cockpit to simulate our bank turn. So I already know from previous tests that you need to bank it about 10 degrees. So let's go to the cockpit, and I'm just going to show you something here on the cockpit. If I hit S, the scale comes up. If I hit R, rotation comes up. So that's a quick shortcut you can use to get back and forth between the what's the term I'm looking for? Transforms, which is your position, scale, rotation, opacity. So basically you can just hit that, hit R for rotation, and I know we want to go about 10 degrees, 10, and this is where, oops, we ran into issues. You notice we got some space here, some space down here, where the cockpit doesn't quite line up. And this is where I talked before about, having higher res stuff like the video when we had to scale it. You can do the same thing with this. If I come back to here and hit S for scale and start bumping this up, I think right around 130 is good. Just type that in there. Yeah, so now we're pretty much safe that we're not going to expose any of the video through the cockpit there. So now if I come back to rotate and go back to 0, we're all good. And now I'm going to turn my HUD displays back on, and they're all lined up. I had to actually go back in after I realized that I had to scale up the cockpit to reposition all my heads up displays and animations. But I decided not to include that. You'll figure it out with whatever cockpit you get. If once you scale it up, you might have to move your HUD displays to make them fit in the right proper position. So now what we have to do is figure out how to move all these items at the same time, because when the cockpit tilts, all your animations and heads up displays have to tilt with it. So to do that, I'm going to close the cockpit up, and we'll just leave the scale right where it's at for the whole animation. Instead of trying to do each one separately and get it to tilt just right and stay in position and everything, there's a really cool, easy way to do this. So one of the first things you want to do is actually, you don't have to select the layer, but if you toggle U back and forth, that shows all your keyframes, and right now we only have keyframes on the video. So that's what we want to pay attention to. So we'll leave those exposed, and we'll add a new layer called null object. And it showed up right here. I'm going to take this null object and move it all the way to the top, like that. And then we are going to twirl it down to get to the transforms. And the cool thing here, actually, I don't even need all the transforms. Let's just go back to here, click scale. Now I can see everything. So what we want to do is, we know we want to start our turn of rotating our objects right at that point. So we'll click to line us up right there. We're going to, let's go back. Almost forgot. First we have to set our first keyframe, which we did. Then go to the next keyframe section and set one more keyframe by clicking the little diamond icon here. Then we're going to go to our next section and we're going to set another keyframe. And this one, actually this isn't scale, this is going to be rotate. So yep. So we're going to go back, actually scrap this. I don't feel like doing the video over, so we're just going to do it one more time, but with rotate. Go back to the beginning, set a keyframe, next, set another keyframe, next, set another keyframe, but at this keyframe here is where we're going to want to rotate it, and we're going to rotate it 10 degrees. And then we're going to go to the next keyframe and we're going to set a new keyframe on this one, and we're going to set this back to 0. So now you can see everything rotate, or that null object rotates. You figure, well, how's that work? Well, here's the cool thing. We're going to grab all our HUD displays and animations and the cockpit together like that, and we are going to grab this little icon right here, which is called a pick whip. I like that. Pick whip. And if you don't see that on your layers display here, just right click in here, go to columns, and make sure you see parent and link, modes, and switches are clicked on. And then you should be able to see these. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to drag. All right, sorry, you got to select them all again. Make sure all those are selected from the heads-up displays to the cockpit. You're going to click on the pick whip and hold it. Scroll your mouse up and drag it right over the top of the null object. And you notice they all changed the parenting to this. So now what's going to happen, grab the video, as I come up to this, everything rotates and goes back. So let's see how that looks when we play it.
Okay, he's gonna
And that looks pretty good. The last thing we got to do, like we did on the other ones, we're going to grab all those keyframes, select them, and hit F9 to ease in and ease out, which it didn't do. There it goes. Ease in, ease out. Don't know what that little blip was, but now let's see how that looks.
Okay, he's gonna miss a lot.
Nice and smooth. That's cool. So that pretty much wraps it up of all the animations for this. The one thing that I didn't do was color grade any of the video yet for the buildings. That could be in another tutorial I would do. You could also look that up on YouTube, the internet. There's all sorts of information about color grading in Adobe Premiere and Adobe Acrobat. There are LUTs out there you can get to do it. I've learned over time doing so many videos that doing it by hand is probably the best way because each piece of video is different. So that pretty much wraps it up for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and you found it easy enough to follow along. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. And there's other ways to contact me. I'll leave all that information in the description area on YouTube. And we'll see you on another day. Happy flying. See ya.